My name is Robert Jerome Garman. A lot of people call me Bobby G.
My dad was born July 29th, 1966, to two loving parents.
Well, I'm Karen, and I'm Bob's mom.
I'm Jerry, and I'm Bob's father.
And for siblings?
It was just me and my older sister, Beth. We're closer now as adults. We were close in high school because she was only 2 years older than me. So we, living in small town, we kind of ran with the same group. My freshman and sophomore year, which had been her junior and senior year, which kind of sounds silly, freshmen hanging out with juniors, but in a small town, that's just kind of how it was. We were the typical American family. I mean, mom and dad worked, mom worked part-time because we owned a grocery store, so she worked, but she was pretty much a housewife, is what they were called back in the 60s and 70s. And she always made a point that she was home when we got home from school, even all the way through high school. And she did the cooking and the cleaning, and dad was the breadwinner of the family. I mean, he worked and supported the family. Born in Wilmer and lived there through second grade, and my dad managed a grocery store in Wilmer, and then he got a job teaching at the Pipestone Votech or vocational school. So we moved to Pipestone just out of second grade, and we lived there. Pipestone was a small house. I mean, it wasn't very big. Sometimes you had to go outside and change your mind. Just a little 3-bedroom house. We had, my sister and I each had our own bedroom upstairs, and then there was like a small little, I guess you'd call it a game room that separated us. And that would have been right at the top of the steps. Really small kitchen, small little family room, and just a 1-bathroom house, and mom and dad's room was on the main level, and then we had like an unfinished basement where my dad did have a pool table with a piece of plywood that we would set over the top and use it as a ping pong table. So learned how to play pool and ping pong at a pretty young age. It would have been my second, third, fourth, after my 5th grade year. He bought the grocery store in Fulda down in southwest Minnesota, so then we moved again. And we went to church, and a typical Sunday would be, you go to church and mom would have a beef roast or a pot roast in the oven, and you'd get home and you just always sit down and have a big family meal, and my dad and I would always sit and watch the Minnesota Vikings play football, in the fall of the year.
My dad, as a child, was
Very, very, very active. Oh, I have a million stories. I was an only child, and I guess when Bob came along, I couldn't believe some of the things he did. His favorite thing to do when he was little, like I said, he was active, is climb on stuff. He would, and now he walked at 9 months old. He would walk halfway down the steps in the house, jump off, fall down, roll over. Now I'm talking about somebody that was maybe a year and a half old. He would climb on top of the table. I don't know if he jumped off. I think I would try to get him off the table. My favorite story about him is real little, and I look back on it and I decided, he ran around so much during the day, he never once got out of bed. Where some kids will try to get out of the crib. Not Bob. He was tired. And he went to sleep. But how he put himself to sleep by being on all fours and rocking. And he'd rock so hard that the crib would hit the wall and go bang, bang, bang.
And we always, growing up in grade school, we always played baseball and we always played football. I didn't really start playing basketball till, I would say probably, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. But we used to play a lot of baseball because we had a ballpark pretty much across the street when we lived in Pipestone. So a lot of kids in the neighborhood, we just play ball. And then along with organized ball too. And we also lived at the swimming pool during the summer months. My parents had a lake cabin. Well, it was actually my grandma's, but after my grandpa died when I was like 2 years old, so my dad kind of was pushed to the forefront in taking care of the lake cabin, which was just outside of Wilmer. So when we vacationed, we would pretty much spend 2 weeks at a time just at the lake. We never, went to Disney World or any of that stuff, or went camping. We spent all our time at the lake. Just a lot of running around, swimming, canoeing, tip the canoe over and play king of the canoe, king of the raft. Learned to water ski at a really young age. There was a group of about 8-10 kids that grew up out there that actually lived out at the lake year round, so we were friends with them and just spent a lot of time playing with them, skiing, tubing, swimming, fishing, badminton, volleyball, some football when we got a little older. Once we got to be the age of firecrackers, we would, that was more when we got into high school, and we got to meet, when you get older you just meet more people. And so one year there was a group of us and a group of them, and I'm talking 15, 20 of each, and we had a big Roman candle firecracker bottle rocket fight with them, which was totally hilarious because you're sitting there shooting bottle rockets and Roman candles at each other. It's not the smartest thing to do, but it was pretty stupid, but it was a lot of fun. When I was the president of the church youth group, we were kicking around ideas for a fundraiser, and I said, well, why don't we have a ping pong tournament? We can have it in the basement of the church, and everybody thought that was a great idea, so we rounded up, I think we had about 9 tables, and we had about cheap little trophies that we gave out, and we did that for 2 years. It was good. It was a good, fun little community fundraiser.
Grade school, we set up a bamboo pole on a, well, Jerry did, on a, what did we use, Jerry? Oh, he had put sticks up in the bamboo pole fit across, and he actually high jumped. He'd set up any type of garbage can, whatever, and in the driveway, and he'd run around and jump over it.
Like an obstacle course.
Yeah, like an obstacle course. He rode his bike. When he got off, he just jumped off and let the bike fall. I mean...
He was innovative in some ways too. He would make a ramp. I remember one time he made a ramp because he had watched Evel Knievel. He was going to jump the Grand Canyon or something. And he decided that would be cool to, do something like that. So he made this ramp to ride his bike up and, fly through the air, whatever. It wasn't that tall, so. But he was agile enough, like Karen said, and he was so active that he just never got hurt. He would jump off the garage. When we were in Pipestone, he'd climb up on a garage and he'd just jump off. He'd land and just roll, and up and away he would go. And he decided, I don't know where that came from, that he wanted to start high jumping. And this was, he wasn't even in high school yet. He was...
No, that was in Pipestone,
Yeah.
and he was, what, 8?
Yeah, 7, 8 years old, and so I said, well, if you want to do that, I can, and I just got some boards and I pounded finishing nails in, measured up, height, and then we had a bamboo pole that we put across it, and he would put the pole on. He'd start, low, jump over it, then he would keep raising it up until he got to a height where he couldn't jump anymore. But the kid had a thing about jumping.
We had a really strong band in Fulda. A lot of memories there because the marching band part of it was very serious and very competitive, and the band won a lot of awards, and I was asked as an 8th grader to come with the high school band to the Indianapolis 500 because the band was invited to march in the Indianapolis 500 parade, which was nationally televised in, I think it was 1980. And they brought a handful of 8th graders that they thought were, worthy material to play at the high school level. So I was one that was asked, and that was a great trip, great experience. And then my junior year, we went to the Cotton Bowl and marched in the Cotton Bowl parade. So during competitions in the summertime, we always took overall. We went first because there was always different classes. We would take overall. We'd beat all the big bands, you know, all the bigger schools. It was just, and everybody took it serious. I mean, it was a big deal. We had a big band, a large number, and it was just fantastic. And our concert band and our pep band and just all that it was fun. People cared, and they really put forth their effort into making the band as great as it was. So we were fundraising to go to the Cotton Bowl parade, and we recorded an album. So it was we recorded our song that we played for marching band, and then we had about 4 or 5 concert pieces that we competed that year, and then our stage band, which I was into, which is jazz band ensemble, played and recorded a number of songs, and then our pep band too. You know, we played at you know, basketball games or volleyball games, football games. The solo I had on a song called Sneaker. And then in the spring of the year, all that was offered was track, because we didn't have a baseball team because everybody played Legion baseball. My freshman year, I went to a junior college in Golden Valley called Golden Valley Lutheran College. Ended up working for a moving company, and lo and behold, that kind of ended up being my my chosen vocation, because it not only was a moving company, but it gave me the opportunity to get my commercial driver's license and to drive you know, commercial truck, and that's the vocation that I ended up pursuing. I drive truck for a wholesale distributor supply company, which we cover you know, like a 5-state area, so we have assigned territory that we cover, and we have, you know, accounts and customers on these routes that we run, and it's a nice schedule to have as far as you know, driving a truck is concerned, because there's home time, there's no weekend work, so it's a good trade-off, because you're not living on the road like you can do.
Highlights from his job include
The people, the customers, our accounts that we have, just the relationships that I've built over the almost 20 years that I've worked for this company, and just seeing different parts of Wisconsin and Minnesota and Iowa, and yeah, just being able to, you know, go back to kind of small town Minnesota, small town Iowa, kind of brings back memories of me growing up, because most of the places I go are rural areas, you know, smaller towns.
a lot of my dad's motivation stems from his family.
When you are married and have a wife and kids, it's my responsibility to support and provide that support for the family. If I went to married my wife, I probably would have continued on a path of destruction and just making bad choices.
Bob never had a problem with a girlfriend in high school or college or whatever. And every time I'd see him, I'd say, you know, how's your love life going? And he'd say, oh, okay. And I said, are you going with anybody? Yeah, I'm going with this gal, Mary or Sally or Judy or Jane or whatever. And, oh, where's she from? And blah, blah, blah and whatnot. And so finally one day I said, Bob, I said, you know, you always have these girlfriends, but we never meet them. You never bring them to meet me and your mother. And I said, are you embarrassed of us that you don't bring them around? I mean, what's happening? Not at all, Dad. He said, you know, he said, once you bring a girl to meet your parents, she thinks it's really serious. Well, then one day the telephone rings and I pick it up and it's Bob, and he said, I would like to bring Chris over for supper. Could I do that? And I said, sure, absolutely. So that was the first time we met your mother. And after that, I seen Bob and I said, what's with this Chris? Because, you know, you told me that the only way you would bring a woman to meet Mom and Dad is is it had to be serious. I said, is this pretty serious? I said, do you like her? He looked at me and said, Dad, I really like her. And luckily for everybody, he married her.
We were at my girlfriend's apartment at a party. It was kind of a setup deal. I don't know if he knew it was supposed to be a setup deal. I don't know. I just ended another bad relationship that day, actually, and wanted to let off a little steam. So I went over to my friend Sherry's because her roommate, I should say, Karen, she lived with her, which was a high school person we knew. I wouldn't call Karen a friend. No. She was one of the tough girls in high school, and I wasn't a tough girl, and Sherry wasn't a tough girl. Anyway, Karen was dating Perry, and Perry was friends with this Bob. So they just said that we should meet that night. So I remember going to their living room, and there's this guy. He was like across the living room, and I think you had your red pants on and a...
No, there's no red pants.
T-shirt.
There's no red pants. I've had my white Minnesota Twins sweatshirt on.
I don't know. You
Probably
didn't
cut
talk
off
to me all
sleeves.
night. So I felt a little awkward because you were just way over there and I'm way over here.
Yeah, I didn't know that I didn't know it was a setup. I had
I had a feeling
no
you didn't
idea.
know.
No idea.
I wasn't the best person that I wanted to be in college. And it didn't get much better for a while after I met your dad. But I was 19, and I think that was like my first night at a bar. Because all of a sudden, after the party, we got to go to this bar. Like, everybody always just went, like, at midnight.
Yeah.
And we went dancing to a live band, and that was awesome. Well, we met in February, and by the next... It wasn't that October. By the next November, I was going to go on an internship, and we had talked about getting married and stuff. It wasn't really a surprise, and I kind of said, well, I would like an engagement ring by Thanksgiving. If this is happening, then break was coming. I was good because I was going to be leaving, going to live with my parents while I was at my internship, and so our engagement, like, I kind of was hoping he'd take me out to dinner and ask me or something, surprise me a little, and the last day he said, will you go out for dinner for me? I'm like, finally, yes. So he took me to the Ace Bar, and the joke is that he rented it out private because it was only us. But it was like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and there was no one there, so that's why.
I don't know when to go.
Yeah, so we were engaged by like Thanksgiving, a year and a half later, so it was pretty fast.
They wed on August 31st, 1991, and according to my dad...
Oh, it was a lid lifter.
It was perfect. My favorite part was just walking down the aisle after we got married and seeing all these people were there that love you and that you love and that they're just so happy for you and supportive, and there's just nothing better than that. It's like, oh my gosh, look how blessed I am, and just all these wonderful people in our lives. I would do things different. There's a lot of teal and a lot of tulle. It was a big wedding in every way.
There's a lot of hair, too.
More
on the guys than the girls.
Eventually, the Garman family grew from 2 to 5.
Well, we weren't going to have kids. One, we were both working like 60, 70 hours each. He was over-the-road truck driver. I was heading to the top of the corporate retail ladder of hamburgers. For some reason, things change after you have a baby. So we were married like 5 years, and we went up to Lutsen skiing, and my friend Sherry was pregnant, and she was so excited and showing me all this little baby book and all this. I'm like, maybe we should try to have a baby. All right, let's try it. And we were pregnant immediately.
Miranda was born November 1st, 1996.
I have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. Starting with the oldest, Miranda, and then Eden, and then Bo.
I'm Bo.
I'm Miranda.
I'm Eden.
I felt very loved many times. One time in particular is when I was 5 years old and I learned how to ski. And it was the end of the night and one last rundown, one of the skiing hills. and it was dark, and so they turned the lights on. There were orange lights. I had let me use this orange goggles, and so I'm just a little 5-year-old, speeding down the hill, snowing, and then there happened to be an orange fence, and so I apparently didn't see it, so I just plowed through the orange fence. But he was just right there to pick me back up and see if I was okay. And then he had an extra sock that he filled with snow and helped me, like ice pack.
One of my favorite memories I have of him is actually, it was at the Martins' cabin. They're our close family friends, and I was pulling in some tubes that we just gotten off the water, and somehow I was facing backwards and didn't realize that I was running out of dock section, and I just walked right off the dock, landing in the boat lift. So I kind of scratched at my back and kind of stunned myself, but hardly a half a second passed by. My dad was already in the water making sure I was all right and holding me as I cried. And he's a very supportive father that has my back and is just very involved with my life, and I really, really love having him as a dad.
Well, one time we went on a trip to Mexico, Cancun to be precise, and we were just walking around one day and we saw that there was a ping pong table in the hotel resort thing place that we were staying at. And we were like, let's play. So we did, and I beat him.
I guess he's just a great father.
I think both he and your mother have done an excellent job of raising their children.
Oh, he just loves you guys so much and is involved in your lives and takes interests in what you're interested in, and those from day one, singing with you and dancing with you and teaching you patterns in the backyard and poker and darts, and he plays. He's a player.
Seeing at this stage of my life, just seeing your kids succeed and reach certain goals that they may have had, and watching them become young men and young women as they mature and pretty much staying on the right path. That's you're moving ahead, not taking 5 steps backwards. That's very rewarding as a parent. Miranda's very first dance recital was very memorable because she stuck out above everybody else. I mean, she knew her routine, the reindeer bop, I think it was. I mean, she was so into it and happy and smiling. It's like she literally likes to dance, and she was only, I think, 3 years old. And then I think when my daughter was state champion in, I don't know, 3rd grade for gymnastics, like Division 7, when she won the balance beam. That was pretty memorable because I didn't bribe her, but I told her if she stayed on the beam, I'd give her $50. So she stayed on the beam and then won the state champion that year in Division, was it 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
It was pretty exciting. That was pretty cool. And then I think Bo, the first year he played football, the very first game, they handed the ball to him and he ran like 45 yards for a touchdown. I never saw that coming. So wow, okay, good for him.
He's a hard worker and has taught us to work hard and not just take for granted a lot of things.
I guess I look at him and I think, boy, that is still the same kid from Fulda, but boy, has he changed, and I'm so proud of where he's ended up. And I have to pat your mother on the back. That's also one of the things about your dad is he is very opinionated, extremely opinionated.
Yep.
He believes what he believes in. He truly believes in, and I admire him about that. I always have. It doesn't matter what people think. If he truly believes he's right, he's going to do what he has to do, and you know, that's just the way he is. And I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that.
He is very faithful to me and full of faith for God. And I guess that's huge. And he's very hardworking and supports our family. I mean, I don't think you can find a harder worker than your dad. He'll tell you about it.
This world is really messed up, and it seems like when you're, you know, a teenager, you know, early 20s, you feel invincible, so you don't think there's anything that'll happen to you, or you really don't have a care in the world, and you really are selfish and just concerned about yourself. But once you get older, and if you get married and have kids, then there's you put things into perspective, and you just understand that your wife or your spouse is definitely a gift from God, and especially your children. So I kind of decided about that time that, you know, sometimes I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I really need to lean on God and his ways, because he knows what's best, and a lot of times I don't. So I don't know how you can go through a death or any loss of life, whether it be your parents, sibling, spouse, if you didn't have your faith. If I can quote Ecclesiastes, anything apart from God is meaningless. So God put us here to serve, to be followers of Christ. Christ came to serve, and we are to serve one another, serve our neighbors, and by doing that we glorify God. So. Okay, what are we doing?
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get like any questions.
Okay, it's my interview.
You didn't get questions? So
He makes life interesting. He always tells me, "What would you like? A big boring guy?" No. He's fun.
what are your names?
My
And
name-
what is
My name's Jeff.
and what is your relation to Bob Garman?
My name's Bo. She's Miranda.
We are his offspring.
Yes, it's terrible. What do you want to do in your retirement?
Live on a lake.
Travel.
So we got to work that out.
Yeah, he wants to go to Australia.
Australia?
That's what he said.
Oh, I said I would.
He said it's on video.
Yeah, it is, but it's not like, oh, I want to go there tomorrow. And maybe someday. And
He also wants to go to the Holy Land.
All right.
So,
I'm more of a
Class-
traveler.
class.
He would like to.